Hey friends, Rick from BCW here with the FAB Breakdown, bringing you the Flesh and Blood news of the week. Unfortunately, I am actually recording this on Tuesday, August 2nd, because I will be at Gen Con this week, Wednesday through Sunday, which is going to make it really hard for me to do a FAB Breakdown video. So instead, I thought I would bring you guys a Blitz Deck Tech with one of the decks that I'm planning on playing in Baltimore at the SCG Con. They have two Flesh and Blood events that I'm looking at playing in. One is their skirmish and one is the Battle Hardened event. So I have a deck brewed up for you. I really like it. It's an oldie but a goodie. So we're gonna talk a little bit about Blitz. We're also gonna just talk briefly about some of the news. All right, so in the news, we are in the middle of skirmish season number 5 that kicked off this past weekend. Now, skirmish season number 5 is split. It could either be a sealed uprising event or it could be a blitz event. So that's why I'm doing a Blitz Deck Tech. We're gonna talk briefly about that meta. So right now, early signs, we're seeing kind of a lot of the old familiar faces. We're seeing Oldhim still do well. We are seeing all different types of heroes. Kasai is still a threat that you have to know how to play against. Dorinthia is doing extremely well as well. We're also seeing the new menace, which is Phi. Now, Phi is a hyper-aggressive deck, not unlike Briar, but can go a little bit wider, has a little bit more utility, and really has some combo turns that they can pull off where they're threatening a lot of damage. Let's not also forget about Benji, who's just lurking out there, got a couple of tools out of Uprising. We also have Reinar and Levia, both of them very strong. So where is this meta? In my opinion, it's wide open. Play what you like. Now, it is a hyper-aggressive format, typically, with the exception of a fatigue-style deck like Oldhim. But Oldhim has lost some of his fatigue ability, so let's just kind of see if he can hold the course. I don't think it's as strong as it was in previous seasons. I think there's a lot of go wide strategies. I also think that the return of heroes like Dorinthia really make it hard for Oldhim to do well because they have a lot of attack reactions, and depending on what your opponent is committing to, they can hit you on that first swing or hit you on the second swing. In theory. I've also seen that Sarah Bolton has been popping up again. This is more of the Saber combo. I believe Raiden is in some of these builds in Blitz, just really looking to be very aggressive with getting their soul charged and then comboing off relatively quickly. So that I think a lot of that is influenced or shaped by decks like Briar and Phi that are really just being hyper aggressive, not really wanting to block from hand or having bad cards to block with from hand. So yeah, that's my early take on it. We haven't seen a lot of the deck lists. We've only seen some of the results that have come through on Twitter. Once again, I feel like some of the coverage is really lacking. I've seen some of the stores posting YouTube videos or streaming it either through YouTube or through Twitch. So thank you to the stores that are making an effort to provide us with content to consume. I just didn't see a lot on social media over the weekend from LSS or from Flesh and Blood. Most of it was just up to the store, the individual players. More information hopefully will be coming out about the skirmish season number 5 later this week. Unfortunately, again, I'll be at Gen Con, so I won't have time to pour through that data and condense it down for you fine folks. All right, so in other news, we are still prepping up for the Pro Tour in Lille, France. We also have the calling in Singapore coming up later this month. Again, both of those, I believe, are class constructed split formats with Uprising Draft and class constructed. So with those dates coming up at the end of the month, you guys, more content, hopefully. I'm still waiting to find out what is going to be streamed. I know we will have coverage of the Pro Tour because I know some of the commentators that are traveling to France to be part of the coverage team. So I know we will have coverage there. I don't know if we'll have coverage of Singapore that is a calling. I'm hoping that we will have some sort of coverage just so we can kind of see some of the meta and some of the cards being played and watch some really good matches. That's my hope. But let's get into why you're actually here and why you've stuck around, and that's to get into this deck tech. So this deck tech is brought to you by the fine folks over at BCW Supplies. They sponsor the content that I create. So let's hear a brief word from them. Hey friends, Rick from BCW here with the Elite 2 product highlight here. This is going to be a bundle deal and it may save you some money. It's a great convenient way to buy sleeves because you get 100 of the BCW Elite 2 sleeves. You get 100 inner sleeves, a plastic card deck box with divider. And this is a phenomenal way to just sleeve up any deck that you're playing. If you like to double sleeve, awesome. If you don't like to double sleeve, you still get a deck box with divider and 100 of the Elite 2 sleeves, which are my preferred sleeves when I'm playing any game like Flesh and Blood. So head on over to BCW Supplies right now, check out the Elite 2 selection, check out the bundle deal, and make sure you find the color that you like and order yours today. All right, so make sure you are checking out bcwsupplies.com to find all your storage collection needs, as well as things that can protect and elevate your hobby game. So, what hero am I talking about? Well, it's in the title. You probably already saw it. We're talking about Bravo. So we're going to get into why I think this hero is the good anti-meta call and the build. So let's go ahead and get top down on the hammer himself, Bravo. All right, and here we are top down on Bravo, the Young Guardian hero, 4 intellect, 20 health, and action, 2 resources. Until the end of your turn, your attack's action cards that cost 3 or more gain dominate. That ability has go again. When we're talking about the Guardian, let's go ahead and talk about the weapon here. We have a Nothos. This is the primary weapon. I rock this probably about 95% of the time in my matchups. It's once per turn, 3 resource cost attack. If you have 2 cards or more in your pitch zone with a cost of 3 or greater, then you gain +2, so it comes in for 6. The other weapon I run is the Sludge of Anvilheim. The Sludge costs 4, once per turn action, attack, and it comes in for 6. Now, this is really for the Wizard matchups. I have played around and brought it in the Guardian matchup just for more consistent 6 damage attacks, especially into decks like Oldhim. However, I was finding that specifically in Blitz and with this build, I was wanting this ability because I was also wanting to set up the Seismic Surge token. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. You can still do it with this. Normally I like this for Wizard because I want to be able to pitch 2 blues, have 2 resources floating. This is for Arcane Barrier. Is the main reason. So if you want more consistent damage, use the Sledge as far as spending 4 every turn to be able to attack for 6. And then on the Anothos is really your primary bread and butter weapon. When it comes to headpieces, I'm rocking the Arcanite Skullcap. Now, I know some decks are running the Crown. The Crown blocks once, it'll block for 2, and then you get to cycle a card out of your arsenal. Now, there is a combo you can do with the heave mechanic where you can heave a card into it, block with the Crown. The Crown will put that card on the bottom. You still get to keep your Seismic Surge tokens. I'm not running that pulverized package in this build. It is something that is easily doable, but because of how aggressive the meta is, I do value that extra 1 block very highly. And due to how big some of the Wizard attacks can get, I really do like, if I have less life, having access to Arcane Barrier 3 on the helmet. The other helmet that I'm running is the helm of the Eisen Peak. I run this really just for the slow, grindy matchups. Typically, I'm running this into the Guardian Mirror. It has an action, costs 1 resource, destroy the helm, and you gain +1 intellect. It's battle worn, it blocks for 1. This action does not have go again, so you cannot pop it and then attack or do something else of that nature. This is just a straight up, had to block out with most of the cards. I have enough to generate a Seismic Surge token, arsenal card, and then draw up to 5. That'll give you 6 cards, 5 in your hand, 1 in your arsenal, plus the Seismic Surge token to threaten a really big turn to kind of take the tempo back. When it comes to the gloves, I run the Crater Fist 90% of the time again. The Crater Fist is an action 3. Resource destroy, Crater Fist your attacks with Crush gain +2 this turn. That ability has go again. It has temper, so it can block 2, block 1. More equipment, more blocking. Another hand piece that I run is the Null Rune Gloves. Again, Wizard is a thing. This is the second option that I would bring in if I really wanted to stop the Rosetta Thorn from Briar or from Chain. But really, this is Wizard only card. And finally, I'm running the Gambler's Gloves in the glove option. When it comes to chess pieces, I'm running the Tectonic Plating. Now, the Tectonic Plating is crucial in my opinion. It is battle worn. It blocks 2, then blocks 1. Once per turn action, cost 1, create a Seismic Surge token. Now, we've been talking about Seismic Surge tokens, and the Seismic Surge token is at the beginning of your action phase, destroy Seismic Surge token. The next Guardian attack action card you play this turn costs 1 resource less per Seismic Surge token that pops. So this is always going to help give you a reduction on your Seismic, this is always going to create a Seismic Surge token, which is going to help give you a reduction on those Guardian attacks. So I do enjoy that. I also run the Null Rune Robes. Again, Wizard is the only time I'm really bringing that in. And then we come to the boots. I'm running a set of the Ironhide legs. The Ironhide legs have 0 block, but whenever you block with it, you may pay 1 resource. If you do, it gains +2 block, and then it is destroyed. And finally, I'm running the Null Rune Boots. Now, the Null Rune Boots, I will bring in against Rune Blades to stop some of the chip damage from Arcane. I will bring this in against Wizard. This is the first piece of Arcane Barrier that I will bring in every matchup. That's not the Arcanite Skullcap because you can't really rely on having less life totals. And Arcane Barrier 3 sometimes is a real big overkill for those matchups. But the Null Rune Boots, easy to bring in. So there's the equipment, there's the hero. Let's go ahead and talk about the red cards. Now, the reason why, in my opinion, to play a hero like Bravo is because you want some really nice on-hit effect cards in your deck. Here are the big ones that you're looking at. Crippling Crush is amazing. It is Bravo specialization, cost 7. It is 11 damage, blocks for 3. Crush effective, it deals 4 or more damage to a hero. They discard 2 random cards. This helps get rid of cards out of the hand, take tempo. Spinal Crush is very good because it's crush effective. It deals 4 or more damage. Your opponent's cards cannot gain go again and cannot have go again. So they can't gain it. They can't, they have to have action points or they only get to do 1 action. And then Crush the Weak is my choice. You could actually play this or you could play Choke Slam Red. There's a couple other cards you could pick. I really like the effect of Crush the Weak, plus it costs 3. So it's crush effective, it deals 4 or more damage. The heroes cannot play attack action cards with 3 or less base power during their next action phase. Now, that is an answer to Phi. This also works great against Benji. It can just shut down an entire turn if you can get it to deal 4 or more damage. Now, you can give it Bravo's ability to give it Dominate. It's coming in. Most cards block for 3, but Phi's cards typically block for 2. Now you're getting equipment with this, or there's some other cards in the deck that we can talk about. Like the next one, Pummel. I am playing 2 red Pummel. Now this combos really well together. You do want to set it up by either arseling the Crush the Weaker, arseling the Pummel in order to give it Dominate, in order to guarantee you're going to get 4 damage typically with this. It's just a nice way to strip a card out of their hand as well as stop them from being able to play cards, and force damage through. When it comes to the other utility cards I have in the red slots, I'm playing 2 red Blessings of Deliverance. We're going to talk a little bit more about this card. It costs 2, it has go again, it's an aura. When it comes in the battlefield, if you have a 3 or higher card in your pitch, you get to draw a card. At the beginning of your next action phase, you destroy the blessing and then reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. And for everyone that costs 3 or more, you gain 1 life. So it's a little bit of life gain. It blocks for 3. It's a non-attack action. Could be important with those Centauri Sabers floating around. Also, it can gain you some life, and there's another cool trick we'll talk about later with it. And then in defense reactions, I know this is totally not the way Blitz is going right now, but I still prefer to run the red 0 for 4 defense reactions. This is just respecting the Dorinthia matchup. This is respecting the Bolton matchup, as well as any of those combo-y type of effects. This could be good if you have it in your hand against Benji and you block out using your equipment on the spring tidings, and then they try to raise a reflex over it. If you have this in your hand, you are able to play it because its base power or its power is greater, so now you can play cards from your hand. So defense reactions are really good. I like Fate Foreseen and Think Below. They're staples. They've been around forever. You know what they are. If you have both in your hand, obviously that's not really a good looking hand for you, but I would always use Fate Foreseen before using Sink Below, just so you know what's on top of your deck, if it's something you want to draw or not, by using the Sink Below. So these are all the reds that are in the deck. The rest of the deck are blues, so let's go ahead and get into the blue attack action cards. All right, so when it comes to the blue attack action cards, these are in here because they are blues. They cost more than 3. They block for 3, so they're helping set up the Anothos. They have a lot of recursion. They're generating the resources that we need. It is pretty much every single card that is blue that you can run that is also an attack action. They all have crush effects. Some of these crush effects are really relevant, so some of these you do want to try and push through if need be. So you have Buckling Blow. It put a -1 counter on target equipment they control. If it crushes, not really that relevant. Could be, could help, but normally not. It's a 4 for 6, blocks 3. The Cartilage Crush is a 3 for 5, blocks 3, crush effect if it deals 4 or more damage. Their first action costs 1 more. It's a Frostbite, essentially. It'll generate like a Frostbite. Not really a Frostbite, it's just a tax. Choke Slam's a really good one. It's a 4 for 6, crush effect. If it deals 4 or more damage, attack action cards they control cannot gain power during their action phase. So that's really going to be helpful into the FI matchup. Again, it's a 6. You need to deal 4. A lot of their cards block for 2, so a lot of times you're going to get either 1 or 2 card block out of them, or they're just going to take the damage and they can't gain power. Cranial Crush is another great one. It is a 6 for 8. It blocks for 3. Crush effect. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they can't draw cards during their next action phase. Now that they still get to draw cards at the end of their action phase back up to their starting hand, but it stops them from being able to draw cards off non-attack action cards, and action cards are on hit effects. So really great card. Again, most of these are here just to pitch, just to block, but they can be played. Crush Confidence. If it deals 4 or more, they lose all hero abilities, hero effects, until the end of their turn. Crush the Weak. We play it in red, play it in blue as well. Debilitate. Debilitate is going to -2 their next attack action card if it deals 4 or more. Costs 4, comes in for 6. Disable, costs 5, comes in for 7. And this is going to take care of an arsenal card, so it's kind of like running a Command and Conquer, except it costs more, which is what you want with Bravo. But it also has to deal 4, whereas Command and Conquer only has to hit, but it is coming in for 7, a hard number to block. And then we have the Macho Grande. It is a 7 for 8 with a block 3, and it has Dominate on it. So it doesn't have a crush effect. It is a good card to push through some damage at late game when you cycle back through your deck. So these are all the blue attack action cards. Now let's talk about some of the blue utility cards that are in the deck. All right, so here we are with our blue utility cards. We have the usual suspects. We have Pummel over here. It is a generic attack reaction for hammers or for clubs. It gains +2, cost of 2. That's fine. It's a great way to sneak some damage. There's a neat little trick you can do with a Nothos where you just pitch 1 card to swing for a Nothos, a blue that costs 3 or more. And then you pitch another blue that costs 3 or more. With this, and the Anothos initially was coming in for 4, but because now it constantly checks and you have 2 blue pitch cards that cost 3 or more, It now gets the +2 from that, +2 from this. You can get it all the way up to an 8. If your opponent no blocked it and like, I'll just take 4, and you can just add an extra 4. It's a great trick. You can also do it with the red pummel to make them take 10. It's great. But the other thing on here is that most people are blocking just enough to only take a couple of points of damage on your big hits that have crush effects. So they may block, an attack that comes in for 7, they may block 4 or 5 of it. And if they do, you have the blue pummel or the red pummel in your hand, you can just pay 2, and they still take the crush effect because you were able to get the damage up over it. However, if it hits the hero, they have to discard a card. So if they block and you're able to just pump this up and make them discard a card out of their hand, you're really stopping them from being able to have any momentum back. Speaking of discarding cards, Tear Asunder is a phenomenal Guardian action. Your next Guardian attack this turn gains +1, dominate, and if it hits the hero, they have to discard 2 cards. This is phenomenal. It costs 3, it blocks for 3, it pitches for 3, it does everything we want, but it's another discard, and it's an on-hit discard, and it gains an attack dominate. Now I'm saying attack and not an attack action card. It's not a normal mistake that I make, because your weapon attack also can trigger or can be used with this, not trigger, but be used with this. So note those coming in for 6, +1 makes it 7. It has dominate, and on hit they have to discard 2 cards. Can be very brutal and backbreaking. Up next we have Showtime. Showtime is a Bravo specialization. It is blue, it pitches for 3, costs 3, and blocks for 3. Again, checks all the boxes I'm looking for. And when Showtime enters the arena, search your deck for a Guardian attack action card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Showtime and draw a card. So this is at the beginning of the next turn. It's an aura, it stays in play. Your opponent's turn, if they don't destroy it, and really there's not a way to destroy it unless they're using a card that destroys auras, this is going to pop and you're going to be able to draw a card off of it. Now this action or aura does not have go again. It is not played at instant speed like Prism's abilities. So a lot of times we're having to run Mage Master boots in order to be able to play this and still attack. But because of this card, we have another way of getting it into play. And this is Imposing Visage. Now, Imposing Visage, search your deck for an aura card with a cost of X or less and put it into the arena, then shuffle. Go again, and it costs X +3, and so normally to go get this, you're gonna have to pitch 6, yeah, you can go get this, and you have go again off this. This just enters the arena, it'll trigger this ability. You can search your deck for a Guardian attack action card. Depending on what's in your hand, you can use it to pitch to swing with a weapon, or you can arsenal that card if you're trying to set up for something. It's a nice little tutor combination and giving you go again to continue your turn. Now, there is another aura in the deck like we talked about earlier. It is the Blessing of Deliverance. And it says when Blessing of Deliverance enters the arena, if you have a card with 3 or more greater in your pitch zone, you get to draw a card. Well, this doesn't mean cast. So if you only spent 5, you could go get this, put this into play, and still get to draw a card off of it, which could give you a Noto Swinger or a card to Arsenal. Plus, you're also going to get the life gain benefit off of this as well. There's a couple of unique things you can do with Imposing Visage, depending on what the situation calls for. So I really like this card. I really play around with it and found that, I love some of the things that it's doing. So whether you're going for Showtime or you're going for Blessing of Deliverance, this card can be a nice utility piece depending on what your hand is shaping up for. Otherwise, it's a non-attack action card that blocks for 3, it pitches for 3, does everything that we want into those Centauri Sabers if need be. So that is everything in the deck. Now I just want to talk about a couple of the other lines. I've mentioned them briefly, but I just want to talk about them for just a second. All right, so in this current meta, you are looking for ways to disrupt the hyper-aggressive non-blocking decks. Really, Crippling Crush and Spinal Crush are great ways to do it. Pummel is another way, especially if they're not blocking much, and you can put this on one of your other lower-costed Crush attack action cards. You can get the benefit of that Crush effect, plus they have to discard a card, and you're still bleeding damage through. The combo I'm always looking to set up in that FI matchup or in the hyper-aggressive matchups is Crush the Weak into the Pummel. This costs 3, this costs 2, so you really need to have 6 pitch in order to pull this off. Now, if you're coming off of a Seismic Surge, this costs 2, this costs 2, you're looking at 4. If you have 6 and only 6, if you only have 2 blues in your hand and you have this in your hand and you have a Seismic Surge from the turn before, like so, then you can actually trigger this popping, pay 2 for this, you have 1 floating, you pitch this to swing Crush the Weak. Now that's coming in for 7, Dominate. You still have 2 floating, which will allow you to play this to get this up to an 11, Dominate. On hit, they have to discard a card. So the Dominate, they're only able to block with 1 card from their hand. This is gonna strip another card from their hand, and they cannot play cards with a base attack of 3 or less. So it's a great little combo to get 11 damage in. It is very doable just on 4 cards. It does take setting it up though with the Seismic Surge. Normally I wanna have one of these 2 cards in the arsenal while I'm looking for the other one. Or this really goes well in the arsenal for anything. I really try not to waste those without having some way to pump them. I don't wanna just send a 7, even if it is dominated, because all they have to do is block with a 3 block from their hand and a piece of equipment, typically blocking for 2. That puts them up to 5, only 2 damage goes through, and the crush effect is not going off. So you definitely want a way to kind of pump that up if you can, and it can really take the tempo of the game right back. So again, just showing a few brief lines. Normally with this hero, you are using all of these wonderful 3 blocks that you have at your disposal, and you're really looking for some of these bigger cards in order to take the tempo back. So you're blocking a lot with this deck. That's why we have defense reactions, and you're swinging a Nothos a lot. The hardest part of playing this deck is just sitting back and being patient, setting up a Seismic Surge every turn that you can, because you want to be able to use it. It does pop every turn, so you do have to pay for it every turn. And then making sure that you are blocking. And even if you're swinging for 4, you're fine. You're swinging back 4 damage. In Blitz, that's 5 turns. They have to block it at some point. Now, a lot of these hyper-aggressive decks don't want to block at all. You're really hoping to see something like one of these 2 cards, or even this in your opening hand or 2. So you want to pitch through a lot of your hand as much as possible. Don't jam your arsenal up by putting something in your arsenal like a Choke Slam or a Cranial Crush or a Macho Grande, because they cost a lot, and sometimes it's really hard to get them off. So don't try to set up cute plays, try to set up disruptive plays. Tear Asunder is a great card, Pummel's a great card. Any of the on-hit effects that are going to affect your opponent are great cards. If you're going into Prism, you don't have a lot of go again with this deck. We're not playing for the aura package. It is a weak point for this deck. If they're playing the Herald spam, we have plenty of poppers. If you're into the Domri deck, you have plenty of poppers. Into the Brute matchups, you're really not going to be able to block, but you have wonderful equipment to block with, and you can hit back with your disruptive stuff. You know, the go again may not be important, but all that discard, whether it's from Crippling Crush or from Pummels or from Tear Asunder, are absolutely phenomenal for disrupting what they're trying to do. And you're applying a lot of pressure. Your deck is designed to be able to block and swing 6. And you're happy doing that. You just got to be happy being in that pocket of block, 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 swing 4, block, block, swing 6. You know, just be in that zone and know that you have your equipment to rely on. Don't use it too early, and you have your hammer just to try and drive home that point. Over time, they're going to have to start blocking. Life totals are going to get low, and that's where you can eke out the advantage, especially late game with a Dominate. A dominated Crippling Crush late game is game over. Dominated Spinal Crush late game, potentially game over. A Crush the Weak or any of the other cards with a red Pummel, pretty much game over. So you're trying to get it to that state where your ability is going to become the thing that wins you the game, or your just raw damage is going to win you the game. Your on-hit effects are really important. And also just practice, practice, practice. So Hopefully you've enjoyed this Bravo Deck Tech. Hopefully I was able to convey something to you that you didn't know, or maybe I've got you to look at a hero that you haven't looked at because we're looking at all the new stuff. But the on-hit effects out of Bravo, this is a hero that I'm definitely playing in the Blitz meta currently. So, all right, that's gonna do it for this video. Get out there, play Flesh and Blood in the Flesh and Blood, and until next time, my friends, have fun, but most importantly, remember, be kind.